Well, I'll get through about 3 or 4 things real quick. Devin is day to day. We just don't know what's going to happen. He's seeing a specialist right now. I know they're taking some more X-rays. I want to thank Marvin and the New Mexico State people, their doctors, the campus police down there, everybody that was involved because they really helped us out a lot. He got great care at the hospital down there. He stayed overnight. And then the biggest thing is we've got a lot of calls from coaches in our conference, coaches from all over the country, former coaches, Coach Alford, a lot of people concerned about Devin. So, I want to thank everybody. I haven't been able to get to everybody just because it was overwhelming, but really want to thank everybody about that. But I think, it's going to be we'll know more after tomorrow, but I think he's going to be out for a little bit of time, and then that'll be a day-to-day deal. Secondly, I need to apologize for shoving my assistant, which we didn't think was that big of a deal. But, my actions were kind of involved as far as you're worried about a kid that's really, really hurt, and it's the heat of the battle. And we had a lot of things going on that night. And, it shouldn't have happened. It won't happen again. But, it was just a unfortunate thing that happened, and we'll go on from it. But, the last thing I checked, Chris and I are pretty good. He lived with me for 2 months, and I haven't sent him an invoice for meals or stay. So I don't think there's a problem between us. So, and then the third thing, and I talked to Jeff about it, and I don't want the fans or I know, I don't want the fans or anybody to think that I don't make my players available. The players weren't available at the last game because they were shook about what happened. And you guys got to do your job as journalists and ask the tough questions, and they couldn't answer any. So I didn't want them to be asking any tough questions, and I didn't have any answers either. So that's why they weren't available at the time, and that's just part of it, and that's my decision. So I take responsibility for that. But looking forward to the game. Layola is a really good team. They got a veteran team. They got a really good point guard in Doyle. Got a great shooter in Turk from Texas, and they got a veteran team. I don't know what their depth is. Their coach is a great coach. He's a good friend of Chris's. They were on the same staff at St. Louis, so it'll be an interesting game. The Missouri Valley Challenge is always interesting. Great teams, great matchups. So we're excited for the opportunity, and hopefully we'll have a lot of excitement in the building and have a lot of fun with the game.
They had their first 2 games forced 23 and 21 turnovers, I think it is.
We did?
They did.
Yeah.
It didn't look like they were doing it at that kind of clip last year. Is that just who they played, small sample size, or is this a team that –
Well, I think they played Texas San Antonio, and they played a Division III team. So it's kind of like our sample size with – last year we shot, 65% from the foul line. Now we're shooting 84. I mean, it's just like we scored 61 points a game. Now we're scoring 84. So it's a small sample size. They don't press. They play some 1-3-1. They might come try to press us, but it's hard to come in here with altitude and press. And unless you have, 10, 11, 12 guys that you're going to play and you play at a fast pace, it's hard to come in here and press. And I think a lot of teams have found that out when they come in here.
Not having Devin for
right.
an extended period of time and then maybe day-to-day, you said after that.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that do for –
Well, I just think Joe's maturity and play's got to speed up, and I think he's done a good job. I think he's played really well the first 2 games, played good in exhibition season, so he's going to get an opportunity, and hopefully he'll be able to do well, and then we'll fill some minutes in. Hopefully Nick will be able to play a little bit, and then you're putting a lot of weight on Tim Williams' shoulders and Joe's shoulders. I mean, if you look at our last game against New Mexico State with foul trouble. I mean, we needed Devin to play the minutes he did, even though he didn't play very much in the second half. But Joe and Nick played a lot. And, at one time I had 3 freshmen in the game with 11 minutes to go in the game. So, those guys get to grow up and experience what it was about.
I know Dane's not a 4, really, the way you use him. But
right.
Can him and Sam play in maybe a 4?
Well, I don't. Yeah, that's what we'll do if we can't get production. So we'll play 4 guards and we'll spread it out a little bit, and we'll run a little more and maybe press a little more and do some things defensively. So that's just something that we have to have in the back. That's what we'll work on today and do some things to look at that.
During the offseason, we saw Sam bulk up quite a bit, and then these first couple games. Are you pleased with his progress? He made a couple big shots down in Las Cruces.
Yeah, I just think he's finding his way. You know, you're talking about a kid that had, he had a bone spur taken out and missed, several weeks. So I think he's just getting back into it. And then he, the unfortunate thing was that he turned his same foot in our game. So he won't practice today, and that's more of a precautionary deal. But you're seeing a kid that's coming into his sophomore year that had a pretty good freshman year that. You got to find your way because it's like I've said several times, we have a lot of guys that can make plays, unlike last year. So, at times last year, if you think about it, that if you want to really look at statistically at our team, at certain times in the game, Sam was our best outside shooter and our best free throw shooter. So that kind of tells you about how potent our offense was last year. And right now he's probably, if you look at our roster and what he does is, he's not one of those guys, so it's a unique situation for him. He's got to find his way.
Coach, your thoughts on what Elijah's been able to do so far?
Well, I think he's just played. I mean, he's, it's just like our team last year. We went 6-2 in the first, round of the conference play, and what he's got to do is he's just got to realize that not a lot of people knew about him. Everybody thought he's a standstill shooter. Nobody thought that much about him, and he was kind of an afterthought. And now that he's busted out for 31. Is he going to be mature enough to continue to get better and play his game and play within himself and be really productive? Because we've always known he could be a great player, and he worked at it. I mean, we don't want to take all the credit, but because he's done it, all we do is try to help him, and he's done all the work. So, just really proud of the way he's playing at a high level, and he's got to continue to do that.
Coach, staying out of foul trouble, how much you can emphasize that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is getting adjusted to the rules because three games we played, 2 games we played, 2 games in exhibition, they've all been called differently. And when they're all called differently, then you can't really figure out what the new rules and the effect. So, I think we really got to work on getting set on screens. I think we got to work on not having our hands down around our waist where when you drive it, you can't arm bar them, you can't touch them. And then we also got to work on when a guy's posting, they got those 2 red marks on the baseline. If they're inside those red marks, even though they're outside the lane, you can have an arm bar on them. But if they're outside those marks, you can't have an arm bar on them. And that's one thing that is unique for us, and it's just different. But I just haven't seen a lot of moving screens called when you really don't touch anybody, and we've seen that. I know some guys are moving, even with them. Just because guys are moving and they don't hit anybody, that's not a foul. So, it's something that our guys have to adjust to.
I noticed that Nick had a conference with one of the officials during the game where it was almost like a learning moment for him, where he was asking for clarification on it. I think it was where he got called for the moving screen. The guy, the New Mexico State guy.
He definitely moved.
Yeah. It was a foul, but
yeah.
Is it how big was an adjustment for some of these guys?
Well, for him, it's definitely an adjustment because that's the way they screen over in Europe. So he's used to hip checking guys and moving, and it's a little bit more physical, and he's just got to adjust to the rules. But one thing that we do have to do, and they've really worked on the game, and it's going to be better for the game in the sense that you can't bump cutters, you can't impede cutters, you can't change their direction, and you have to be set on screens. So with those things done, we just got to do a better job of it.
The kind of unrelated to basketball, somewhat. This past weekend, I didn't ask you Sunday. Past weekend for Albuquerque in particular, but really the whole state, Pauley football getting
right.
What you guys winning 2, one of them being against a rival. Kind of your thoughts on what this past weekend was for Albuquerque.
Well, I think it's great. It gives us a lot of her win gives us a lot of it's worldly publicity, but she's always been great, and she's a great person, and she's been a great ambassador. But there's a lot of those guys that have been great ambassadors for. Winklejohn, Jackson, Jim, but she's a special one, and she's raised here, and it meant a lot to us. We watched it with my guys, so it was a fun deal. We watched the football game on our computers, so we didn't get the coverage of the football game, so we had to watch it on the computer, and we got her on pay-per-view, so we stayed up with our guys after film and watched that stuff. And for the football team, it's awesome. because that's what they did is very hard to do. It's very similar to what we did when we beat BYU with Darrington's group and ended up winning the conference because it was so hard to win at BYU. It was very similar. So hopefully that'll be a big stepping stone for them. But they've done a great job and we're happy. And then I'm not going to lie and say we didn't feel any pressure on Sunday. But you always feel pressure when you're down there. But it was probably one of those weekends that probably won't happen for a real long time.
What's like some of the strengths of this team that's coming this year?
Well, I just think they got really good guard play with Peterson, Turk, and Doyle. I think they're veteran guys that can score the ball and put it on the floor. The thing that's going to be hard for us, and it's hopefully it won't be that difficult. Their biggest guy's 6'7". They come off the bench with the Kirby kid from Phoenix. But other than that, they don't have a lot of size. So, we're going to have to guard the dribble and guard the penetration, and hopefully we'll be able to do that.
Kind of a change from New Mexico State with the size that they do have.
Yeah, they're big. New Mexico State's big, and these guys, it's a different deal. And then, then the following game we got USC, and they've got some bigs, but they've been playing four guards a lot. So we're just going to have to adjust. Man, it's going to be one of those games we're going to adjust. It's not like we haven't had a lot of practice in the first three games, counting the two exhibitions, so hopefully we'll be able to handle it.
After Sunday's game, Marvin mentioned he looked at the stat sheet and was almost surprised himself that they took 24 three-pointers. How much of that was them taking bad shots and bad three-pointers like he sort of suggested it wasn't? How much of it was you guys and your defense kind of forcing the action out and not letting it decide?
Well, I think, I've mentioned it before, Jeff. I think the biggest thing about our team is our length. And I think we've put our feet down 2 feet outside the three-point line. We're not going to give ground anymore. And I think, we're contesting shots. We're making guys go up and shoot and then contesting instead of jumping in the air and running by them and going for shot fakes and giving guys open shots. I just think we've got some discipline. And I think, it's just like I told our guys that you got to be serious about what you do. And I think they've taken that to heart and they've become really serious on the scouting report and who to guard, who not to guard, and how we're going to do different things defensively, scheme-wise. So I think they've really taken it to heart, and we've done a really good job closing out on the line.
And the byproduct of that then is they do start stepping out a little
Right.
bit further and more. And I know after every game when they get three in a 2 minutes, man, I ask you about your three-point defense.
Mm-hmm.
Is that basically a byproduct of what you guys are doing defensively?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is our biggest goal is to try to make them take tough twos, and then we're trying to keep them out of the paint, and then we don't want them to have deep post touches, which means touches in the lane, and then make them make threes. If we can do that, it's been a recipe of great success here, and that's kind of what we try to do. Now we don't always do it, but we try to do the best we can. And I think our guys are buying into that.
Yeah, out of the zone defense, I feel like you guys are able to rebound still really well.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we don't talk about is Cullen has 5 rebounds, Elijah has 6 rebounds. I mean, we had some rebounds from our guards that usually Hugh got most of them, but some of our guards are rebounding and they're understanding that they have to get long rebounds. And, I just think that our guys have become a better rebounding team in an early period of the year. So hopefully we'll continue to do that.
Getting back just quickly to Devin, was there any indication of what caused that?
No, he just hit his head on Jordan's hip, and it just snapped it back. So, and the biggest thing is, poor Jordan, he thought it was his fault. He had nothing to do with it. It's an accident. It's part of the game. It's part of the game. It's playing. And I was just like, hey, that was a complete accident. Nobody did anything on purpose. It was you got the rebound, you're going the other way, and he fell and hit your hip. But that just happens. That's what happens in sports, and it's unfortunate. And thank God he's just safe and nothing's really, really wrong. But there was a time where I thought, it was a bad deal. So, I just really proud of the guys because, you come back in the huddle, I'm shook. He's visibly upset and he can't move very well. And then you come back to the huddle and all our guys are visibly upset. And, they snapped back and played pretty well for the last, we had a 14-minute break. So, it was just one of those things.
As far as the way you guys are playing, are they playing like you thought they would be at this time of the season? Or what you thought?
I think they're playing a little bit better than I thought they would offensively, and I think they're playing really unselfish. I think they're doing some things that I thought was going to take some time with the new group. And to be honest with you, other than, giving them 70-some points, and I thought we did a pretty good job defensively. I mean, I thought we did some good things. They're tough. I mean, they're hard to guard. They got some guys that can score the ball, and they got the best player in that conference, and he's a good player. And they got some other pieces. So, we were very fortunate to come out ahead and win the game.
Are you getting more comfortable which lineups work best together?
That's a tough one because, if you watched how I subbed, I kind of gave X a chance. And then he didn't really give me much offensively, and then I gave Dane a chance. And then I gave Tim Jacobs a chance, and I thought he did a nice job. Then I just had it. I went with my gut, and I just said somebody's going to have to make a shot. When I took Cullen out and I put Jordan in, he made a shot. And then he does some good things defensively. So I think it'll be like that for a while till – we figure out who's going to step forward and who's going to play those minutes, but there's going to be a couple guys left out. I'm trying to get, Anthony Mason a little bit more comfortable. Anthony Mason, he played with me a long time ago and he passed. That's awful. But Anthony Mathis, I got to get him comfortable in shooting the ball in games. He makes a lot of shots in practice, but he's not yet shoot the ball like he's capable of doing, so I'm going to have to do a better job with that. And, I think he's had some great looks. It's just they haven't went down. So we just got to get him where he feels comfortable enough to make some shots.
Those staggered minutes that Tim Williams played
Mm-hmm.
really provided you an opportunity to see some guys be inserted in.
Yeah, that's the one thing about, Joe, we got to do that the first game with Texas Southern, but we didn't think we were going to have the opportunity to do that. Sometimes you play games in the first part of the season so you get younger guys opportunities to play so that you can develop a bench and do that. With our schedule, we didn't think we'd be able to do that. Now, we got to do it the first night. We did it a lot against New Mexico State, which I didn't want to do exactly what you said. Tim Williams in foul trouble. Devin gets hurt. Obach in foul trouble. So you got Nick and Joe on the floor at one time, and you got some unique lineups. And then, I had Dane and Jordan Hunter out there with Nick. So it was one of those things where it's just like, my staff kept saying, are you sure you want to have 3 freshmen on the floor with 11 minutes to go? And I just kept smiling at them. I go, hey, they got to learn sometime. So we dodged, I thought they did a nice job. They could, you can sink or swim, and I think they swam pretty well, and then we were able to get our guys rest.
Do you keep track of what the conference is doing this early on, with some of the upsets?
A little bit. It's just hard early in the year to know what's an upset. It's just anytime you go on the road, it's hard to win, and anytime you play at home, it's a lot different. So we've just been fortunate over the years where we've been able to win a lot of road games. And I think if you can win on the road, then that makes you the difference in what your season's going to be and what it's not going to be. But that's the way it always has been for us. Now, I don't know what it's been for other teams, but that's what it's been for us.
Got a vote in the coaches poll. What do you think of that?
I don't have a vote, so it wasn't me voting for myself or my team, so I don't vote. So, all that stuff's great for our program, and we want to be there, and we strive to be there, but we got a long way to go. But we're having fun. I think one thing that's unique, and I think our fans will really come and see our kids, and they'll like this team, is they have fun and they play at a high level, and they enjoy it and they love it. And I think one thing that's unique about this team, and we've had it with most teams, but just the way they play together this early when they haven't been together. You're talking about 2 regular season games in. Now, I'm sure we're going to have some peaks and valleys, but we'll see what happens. I think they'll do a good job.
You don't know the vote for you, do you?
I don't. I could probably find out, though. Hopefully it was the St. Mary's coach. Thanks.